Hi you guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a gentle yoga practice for back pain, low back pain, upper back pain, any type of back pain that you may be experiencing. This is also a class that is really wonderful if you're having any type of sciatic pain or SI joint pain or anything in the lumbar low spine. So be sure to get comfortable on your mat and we'll start today's class. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe down below you guys if you aren't already subscribed, and of course join me over on social media where you get all of the updates and you won't miss a class ever. And with all of that said, let's start today's practice. So finding a comfortable seated position. We'll start seated just to allow a little bit of relief into the low back. Sometimes lying down can be a little bit too much into the low spine. So finding a comfortable seat, of course, if for any reason you need to lay down, absolutely feel free to take a reclined breathing practice here. So sitting on your mat, if you have a cushion or anything handy that you want to support and put underneath your pelvis, then you can absolutely do that as well. It allows a little bit more cushioning, a little bit more support into the spine, especially if there's any type of herniation or disc stuff going on. So getting comfortable, sitting nice and tall with our spine, resting the hands into the lap. You can feel free to close the eyes if that's safe and comfortable. And we're just starting to tune into our breath here, just allowing the breath to move naturally, not trying to force it or change it. Just finding a few inhales and exhales out to settle into the space on our mat. You can imagine that a string is drawing the top of your head all the way towards the ceiling. So we're getting lots of lift and expansion through the spine. Notice if you can find a little bit more lift in that spine as I say that. Just getting that imagination into the physical body can often just even make a slight change in your posture. Letting the shoulders roll down the back, really opening up through the chest. And just noticing where you're feeling this, where you're feeling any type of resistance or pain or injury. And just remembering that as we move through this practice, that if something doesn't feel right, feels more painful or aggravating to any injury you have, that you just back off and come out of the pose. So just listening to your body, having that awareness to tune in. That's all what yoga is about, is just being with our body, being with ourselves. So just finding a few more breaths in and out. Just move in the breath, feeling the body. And just noticing if your thoughts are in a not so good place with your body. Maybe you're feeling frustration or anger or pain. Just knowing that that's okay and that these things are a right now thing. They're not forever. And that you're here moving your body and doing something good for it today. Find a breath in and an exhale out. Release anything that's not serving you. You can gently find some wiggles, movements back into the fingers, the toes. Gently start to open the eyes when you're ready. And just removing any cushion or support you had below your hips. If you did have something, just pushing it off to the side for a moment. And just finding that seated position again. So sitting nice and tall with our spine. We're gonna reach up that right arm high towards the sky. So reaching it up, overhead. And just finding a gentle tip over towards the left. So finding a gentle slight movement, keeping that hand either here onto that left thigh, or you can option to cross it across the body, pressing into that right thigh. So really keeping our sit bones rooted and grounded into the mat here. So So you can press onto that opposite, finding that cross twist here. Of course, if the boobies or the belly get in the way, then you can just keep the hand there as well. So they often tend to get in the way. So we're allowing the hips to sink into the mat and finding that gentle tip over. So we're keeping nice and tall, reaching through the fingers. And you can even option to press into that bottom leg. So really getting a nice stretch into our QL muscle here. This runs all the way from the first rib into the hip. So this can be a place of tension and tightness, especially when there's any type of low back or pain in that area, in the hips as well. Find one more breath in. And exhale. Release that top hand, bring it back down onto the mat. Bring both hands back into your lap. And we'll come through the other side. So reach that left arm up overhead, finding that gentle tip over. So keeping our hips rooted in the mat, noticing if one side might feel way more open than the other. And you can keep that hand on the thigh, or you can cross it across the body. So depending if everything has some space here, sometimes you're a little more busty, so it might be a little bit harder to get that arm across the body. And so finding a nice lift through the fingers, that gentle press of the hand into that bottom leg, really opening up into the side body. So every inhale you fill up, every exhale you release and feel that shoulder softening down the back, letting go of tension through the face. Another inhale in. And exhale, release that top hand. Bring both hands back into the lap. Give that a shake out. And we'll kick the legs out in front of us here. Give them a little shake. And finding our way to come onto all fours. So we're gonna sit onto our feet here, coming into our first child's pose. So option to keep the legs together as you stack the ankles underneath the thighs and allowing yourself to walk your hands forward. So this might be enough for you gazing towards the mat. Might feel like quite a good stretch if you're quite tight or if you have any injury, just being mindful of where you feel this. You can option to come down further, maybe bringing forearms down, maybe bringing the forehead down towards the mat, so allowing it to rest down. You can even cross those forearms, let them be a little bit of a pillow, supporting yourself. And if none of that is working, you can bring the knees wider apart into a wide-legged child's pose, allowing a little bit more space for the BBs, I'm gonna call them, the boobs and the belly. And you can walk those hands forward. So the knees apart often finds more stretch into our hips, knees together finds more stretch into the low back. So your choice, again, just depending where you're feeling this, maybe trying both, seeing what resonates a little bit better. So allowing your forehead to connect to something here, whether it be forearms or the mat, doesn't matter. We're just finding a couple of breaths into this space here. Sending your breath into any pain, any tightness. Letting that breath be healing to the body. Finding your last breath in and an exhale out. Allow yourself to gently walk back up, coming back to sit onto the feet again. So sitting up tall. Let's inhale, roll up the shoulders. Exhale, release the shoulders down the back body. And from here, we're gonna bring ourselves forward again. So again, if you like the knees closer together or further apart, doesn't matter to me. We're gonna stretch the arms out long in front, staying reaching forward. So I want you to imagine reaching towards the front of your mat. So you're like clawing towards the front. So getting a really big stretch in through the low back here. So really working into our spine, into our lumbar here. So big stretch, gaze towards the mat. And from here, we're gonna walk the hands over towards the left side of your mat. So just walking them over, finding a stretch in through the side body here. So imagine that we're shooting that right hip away from us still, but we're stretching and reaching into that whole side body. So really getting a wonderful stretch here, really opening up. So you can be higher up if the ground is far away. That's okay. You don't have to be into a pretzel pose. We're just really finding a stretch and release here. And walk the hands back to center, and we'll walk over towards that other side. So really imagine shooting that left hip away, finding that nice big stretch all the way from the shoulder down the whole side body. So oftentimes our back pain can be linked to many different parts of the body, whether it's your hips, your back, your shoulders. And on your exhale, let's walk ourselves back to center, reach forward again, clawing towards the front of the mat. And from here, let's inhale as we rock ourselves back up, come into a tabletop position. So we're stacking those knees underneath the hips, so directly below, stacking wrists below the shoulders, clawing the fingers into the mat. So we're gripping into our mat, lifting and pressing the shoulders away. So strong through the shoulders, not hurting our wrists here. It's something I love to do for back pain, because I personally experience a lot of lumbar issues myself and spinal issues. So really nice to just find some movements and some wiggles. So we're going to just find some circle movements of the hips. So allowing your body just to move however feels good. So you can start to find circles. Maybe you just want to find some sways back and forth. So just allowing any movement to really just tune in. You can start to round out the spine. You can sit further back with the bum. Finding big circles, maybe little movements. Whatever is really feeling good in your body. So you can close the eyes here and just move. Just breathing as we move. Sending that breath into all of those tight spots. Just letting go of everything that's hurting you here. Allowing healing energy, movement to stretch out, get some more blood flow into those spaces. If you're going one direction, just switching the direction, so finding some movements the other way. Just breathing, circles or sways, whatever feels good here. Just let that breath be your guide. Let it move, let it breathe, just get it all out. And once you feel even on both circles, you can come back to center. Let's just sit back onto our feet to shake out those wrists. Sometimes it can be a little bit too much. Hello, wrists, wake them up. And we'll rock back forward. Let's find some cat-cow movements here. So as we take an inhale, we're going to drop the belly towards the mat, flip the bum away, lifting our chest and our gaze gently up. As we exhale, rounding through the spine. So imagine pressing that spine towards the sky, hollowing out the belly, drop the head, and inhale back forward. So nice gentle movements of our spine here as we move from our cat to our cow. So again, you can find those gentle movements. Maybe closing the eyes, tuning into your body, your spine, noticing what's going on. And maybe there's a good juicy spot you want to just kind of hold there. I always love rounding my spine, so you can imagine just holding there for a second. Oh, feels so good. Or maybe it's the opposite, holding into a cow pose. Just find a few more rounds at your own pace. Letting it go, moving, breathing. And on your last round, just come back to your neutral table. We'll set our bum back onto our feet and just releasing forward into that child's pose. So coming through a different variation here, if you'd like to keep the legs together, you can start to slide the hands either side of the body. Palms facing up towards the sky, rounding the shoulders over the legs. So if that's too far away for you, you could even just put a nice little pillow or a cushion below your forehead. And then releasing the shoulders down. So you're finding that gravity to drop them around the body and just releasing the back in a different way. So just find a couple breaths here. Letting everything go. And when you're ready, start to slide those hands back up, gently come up, coming back to our tabletop. And we're gonna curl the back toes under, so curling each foot, pressing into the feet as we lift the bum towards the sky, coming through a down dog. So walk that dog out, pressing through the feet, press those heels towards the mat. Just walk, wiggle, move here. Thinking about sinking that heart towards the thighs. So really finding some expansion here, opening up through the back. Shoulder blades come down the back, so really opening, melting that heart. And again, we'll just find those movements, those wiggles. So you can sway the hips back and forth, maybe finding some dips of the hips. So we're just moving, just feeling, letting go of tension, tightness. And on your next inhale, we're going to start to gently step the feet up between the hands. So bending the knees as much as you need here to come up. Take your time. Coming through our forward fold. So what we're doing here is keeping the knees really bent. So imagine gluing that belly onto the thighs. So I want you to find that nice big bend here. So you don't have to reach the floor. We're still allowing ourselves to hang and fall forward. So I want you to think about creasing right from the hip crease. So we're almost like we're folding in half, but using the thighs as a little support. So we're not just hanging out here, rounding through our lumbar and hanging out in our low back. I want you to think about bending deeply through the legs. So maybe that means you're resting the thighs here and you're hanging out here because it's too far, it's too much to reach forward. Maybe your back is bothering you and you don't want to even reach forward. You stay here. This is enough. If not, you can option to let the hands dangle towards the mat, releasing the spine long. So we're just creating space, creating openness into our back body, letting the shoulders fall forward. Find a breath in. And exhale. So we're going to bend deeply through the knees here, plant the hands down towards the mat. And we're going to step that left foot back, dropping the knee down, coming into a low lunge variation. So if the back knee is bothersome, you can roll the back of the mat underneath the knee just for a little bit of support. And as we find an inhale, we'll walk ourselves up that front thigh. So adjusting your stance as you need here. So if it's a little off balance, you walk that leg further out or walk it closer towards the midline of the body, whichever allows you to feel that nice balance. So we're stacking that knee above our ankle, protecting our joints here. Hands can be onto that front thigh. So imagine that we're lifting nice and tall through the spine, growing that spine towards the sky. So always imagine lifting, drawing up, and then as we exhale, we're thinking about sinking those hips, opening up through that left hip flexor. So getting a nice stretch into the front of the hip here. So we're not just hanging out here. We're still strong and active through the legs. We're finding that nice openness into the pelvis, through the hips. Find a breath in and a breath out. And exhale, release the hands, frame the front foot. From here, we're going to sit our bum back, allowing a bit of stretch into that front thigh. So you can keep the foot planted onto the mat, hands either side. You can be on tented fingers here. So you can keep the foot planted, or you can option to start to flex through that foot. You can curl that back toe under if you need. And coming into our variation of our half split pose. So if you need to be higher up on that leg, you can do that. If you need to tent the fingers or use any blocks or props here, you can do that too. So allowing that straightening through the front leg, getting a nice flexion. If it's too much, you keep that foot planted, okay? So allowing the chest to fall over that front leg. Again, this might be too much depending on what's going on with you. So if you stay higher, that's okay too. Remember, we're listening to our body. Find one last breath here. And let's exhale, rock ourselves back, forward, come back into that lunge. Hands can support either side of the foot. Let's curl under that back foot and step back into our downward facing dog. So just walk that dog out, pedal it out, move the back, move the body. Finding 2 breaths here. Let the breath go. And on your next inhale, let's start to step the feet up between the hands again. Bending the knees as much as you need to get up there. We'll bend the knees deeply here, belly towards the thighs. And here, instead of reaching forward, you can reach for the back side of your legs. So hugging your legs, if that's accessible. So you can hug the back side of your knees, you can grab onto your ankles, wherever feels good. Allowing the head to fall forward. Use that support of those legs. Breath in and breath out. We'll release the hands, frame the front feet, bend deeply into the knees, and we're going to step that right foot back this time, coming through the other side of our low lunge. So again, curl that back mat under if you need to support the back knee. Let's find an inhale, walking up that front thigh. So sitting up into our low lunge. So you can walk the foot out, find that adjustment as you need. Nice and tall here through the spine. And on your exhale, imagine sinking, melting that hip towards the mat. So getting a nice big stretch into the other side here in through the right hip, right into the right front of that hip flexor. So oftentimes the tightness can come from our hips and be affecting our low back. So it all kind of supports. Pelvis is very unique. It's supporting everything all at once. So things will always compensate and cause more tension and tightness. So find a breath in. And a breath out. Release those hands, frame the front foot. You can curl those back toes under if you like. And we're going to straighten out through that front leg, sitting our bum back. So finding that half split pose again. So if it means that you keep that foot planted, you keep it planted. If not, you flex through the front toes. Imagine drawing that left hip back, right hip forward, keeping our hips even. So you can be higher here on blocks, just options, allowing the belly and chest to fall forward over that front leg. But it doesn't have to be there. If you're not there, that's okay. Finding one more breath, breathing in. And exhale, rock yourself back forward, come back into that low lunge. Keep the hands planted. We'll curl the back foot under and step back, downward facing dog. If you need to take a child's pose at any time, that's your option here. So if it's too much, your back's killing you, things are aching, it's too much work, that's okay. We just drop into a child's pose. Find one more breath here in whichever pose you're in. And let's release the knees down. Come down to the mat. Let's sit our bum back into child pose. Reach the arms forward and release that forehead down. So finding that pose that allows you to rest the forehead. Taking 3 big breaths here. Noticing if those thoughts are coming up of pain or anger or frustration with that part of the body. And just sending that away with your exhale. On your next inhale, rock yourself forward, come back to our tabletop. And we're just going to sit onto our bum here, finding a seated position. So stretching out the feet long in front of you, flexing the toes towards us. So from here, if you have a block or a bolster or even just a pillow, a cushion, just to slide underneath the knees. So we're keeping some flexion into our knees here. So we're going to find ourselves to come into our forward fold, but so important here, especially if you have any type of sciatic pain that runs down the leg or any impingement or herniation of discs in the back, being really mindful here that we're thinking about folding in half. So right from the hip crease, we're bending from here. We're not rounding and reaching and hollowing out the back, because then we're hanging out in our low back. So I really want you to think about sitting tall, lifting the chest, lifting the spine. And as you exhale, finding that crease and that tip. So our back is staying straight. Hands can just press into the thighs wherever they may fall. So this might be where you are. So that's why we have that little bit of a support. So this might be where you stay. We're thinking about finding a stretch into the back side of the hamstrings, as well as there might be some stretch into the back body. So we're finding that gentle tip forward, so creasing or bending right from that hip crease. So maybe you come further forward, but we're keeping the back straight. We're not rounding the shoulders. So this means that you might not tip very far. That's okay. So noticing the difference there. And then as we find an exhale, you can start to reach the hands further down, round through the back. Just seeing how that feels. So I don't want you to reach all the way to your ankles and pull or strain or have any tingling or sensation through the legs or the back. So if that means you're higher up, you stay higher. So wherever you are is where you need to be. Finding a breath in and a breath out. Letting go, releasing any tension. On an inhale, bring yourself back up, slide the hands back up, sitting tall. You can release that block or cushion. And from here, bring the soles of the feet together, bending through the legs and finding our bound angle pose, so our Baddha Konasana. So we're keeping the legs further away from us here. Pressing the soles of the feet together, sitting tall through the spine. And as we take an exhale, we're going to slide the hands down towards the ankles and rounding ourselves forward. So imagine drawing your nose towards the feet. So finding a nice round and release into the back body. So again, you might not tip very far here. We're just finding some stretch and release through the back, through the hips. Wonderful for our hips here. So finding a breath in, just imagining that you're trying to connect that forehead towards the feet, but of course it doesn't need to be there. Find an exhale, bring yourself back up. Sitting tall, release the feet out long in front, give them a little shake out. And from here, finding ourselves to come back onto our knees, sitting into our child's pose again. So finding your variation of child's pose to release yourself forward, connecting our forehead to something, just finding a couple of breaths to settle into our body, feeling the benefits of yoga, feeling the release through the back, through the injury or the pain. And when you're ready, bring yourself back up. You can stay sitting onto the feet, stacking the joints. If not, you can sit onto a comfortable seat. Let's inhale, sweep the arms, reach them up high, gazing up, stretch through the back. Exhale the hands through heart. Find one more inhale, bring in all of that positive energy, healing energy. Exhale, palms together through heart center, connecting the thumb just gently into the breastbone, pressing the palms together. Just thanking yourself for coming to the mat, for challenging your body, for stretching it and breathing into whatever is going on, whether it's mentally or physically. And just thanking yourself, because sometimes coming to the mat can be the hardest part. Thank you so much for joining me here on the mat. Send you all love and light in your healing journey. From my heart to yours, namaste. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, subscribe down below if you aren't already, and follow me over on social media so you don't miss any of the healthy tips and yoga that is upcoming. Thanks so much.